Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you a Subterranean Assault video. It has been a month. Well, depending on if you remember or not, it's been like 30 days. Either way, it's been about a month of Subterranean Assault being in play, and unless you've been living under a rock, underground, maybe in a tunnel, you know that Subterranean Assault is our newest detachment for Tyranids over here. You get reroll hit rolls of 1, just flat out. And if a burrower comes from reserves, it sets up a tunnel marker that lets you bring somebody else and through that tunnel marker. Been pretty good. Personally, I am oddly still indifferent about it. I haven't found a pet list for it, as I'd say. For those of you unfamiliar with the term, it's like a pet deck. Played Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, and you know, something that a deck or a list that you run that no matter how good or bad it is, that's just what you do because it's your baby. Also, I don't know if that applies to Magic, but I would assume so. And on that note, if any of you have any tips for how to get into Magic, please let me know because I think I want to do that. Uh, we'll just go at that. But yeah, Subterranean Cell, I haven't found a thing yet that I'm just like, yeah, no, this is my Subterranean Assault list. So I don't know, still working on it. It hasn't really. I don't know. It's cute. It's cool. It's one of those things you acknowledge that everybody likes it, but oh, I'm just there. But that's Subterranean Assault. What information has come out about it so far? First off, I want to talk about this WTC ruling. Uh, WTC, it's not GW, but they talk about rules that they put out FAQs faster than GW for competitive events that you might want to be referring to for WTC level events. Um, Personally, this is the ruling that I've always agreed with, and I know this isn't going to make some people happy. And GW still could come in and say, no, everybody's stupid, this is how it works. But as of now, the only people that have put out a ruling, WTC, say, when using either the Subterranean Assault Tunnel Network Stratagem or the Surprise Assault Detachment rule, you are using a different rule to set up a unit on the table. Therefore, things like Moloch's Terror from the Deep ability does not trigger as a result of this, as you are not using the Deep Strike ability. Also, you may bring in units from strategic reserves that have already been on the table using this ability in Battle Round 1 as they have been given a method of being set up. So, um, yeah, I guess my other thing with Subterranean Assault that maybe has made me a little jaded towards it is the level of angle shoot that people are arguing some rules. And I've just been one of the people that's like, if you have to argue this hard about a rule, you just take the one that doesn't benefit you as much. So I didn't really see Molochs getting the mortals through the hole. I did for a couple hours when I first read it. I was like, oh yeah, just do that. And then I see where things get tricky because next I have to read a little bit on that one. But again, GW can still say no, it does let you do it. But as of now, this is the ruling that I would have agreed with anyway. Don't get into fistfights with your TOs over shit. Don't argue with your friends about things to the end of days. Just pack it up and, let it rock. So let that be a lesson to anybody that needed to hear that, I guess. But moving on, how has Subterranean Assault been doing? Well, as of 624, according to StatCheck, go check them out. These are not my stats. Subterranean Assault had a 53% win rate. 20 people, 102, games played. And that's fine. That's nice. I want to just always try to find things over time, right? So thankfully, not to say that anybody's stats are better than another. Hell no, I'm not trying to say all that. But just when you reference things, make sure that you are remembering when things are being referenced to. As somebody that works in education, I just have to remind people every now and again that yeah, you can pull information, but information changes. So Subterranean Assault, as of 6/24, had a 53% win rate, but how has it been doing the last few weeks? Well, the week of 6/16, which is where that data was rolling around, it did have about 53, 52% on that weekend. 2 X&O or X&1s, 1 tournament win, 16 players, 45 games out of 86 being wins. Pretty good. That matches up with what StatCheck had over here. But then after that, what happened? Subterranean Assault, 50%. 2 players, X and O, X for 1, no tournament wins, 12 players, 31 wins out of 62 games. Perfectly even, right? So yeah, fell a little bit. And this last weekend fell even more, 46%, but more X and O, X and 1 tournament winner, 25 players, 57 wins out of 125 games. So it is falling in win rate. And this is where I'd say be careful with the new and sparkly thing. I don't think that this is a problem of Subterranean Assault. It is the game of Tyranid rules versus everybody else's rules. One of the things that I didn't really. Actually, I think this will be better on the next one, so I'll put a pin in that. But I think it's still fine. And I think if the game continues to evolve, it might be less fine, but we'll see. Uh, I don't want people to get discouraged, but at the same time, as time goes on, people figure out what you can do. So when I was watching a lot of games the first weekend, saw that people were terrified and like put themselves in the corners they didn't need to be versus Subterranean Assault. And slowly but surely, people are finding out, well, if I just punch the bugs die. So that's kind of what's happening. There's screening, learning. People are figuring out things. Some is kind of just setting up traps on top of that for us. So everybody watch out. Be careful. You are still playing Tyranids with their data sheets, their saves. Just because you can get there doesn't make you a monster, even though you're a monster. And it doesn't sometimes mean that you'll survive next round either, so be careful. But on that note, what has been doing well for us out of Subterranean Assault? So, looking over here, we have Dale. I almost said Dan. Sorry, I was trying to go with Dale Welton, and then I went Dale. But sorry, Dale. Anyway, we have Dale that had Neurotyrant, 2 Trigons, Gargoyles, Hormagaunts, Biovores, Exocrine, Haruspex, 2 Lictors, Maleceptor, a Psychophage, a Pyrovore, a squad of regular Raveners, and a Rupture Cannon Tyrannofex. So a couple of interesting things with Dale's list here. No Hive Tyrant. None to be found. And what I say, and a couple other people have said, command point hungry detachment. So that's interesting. However, I have to acknowledge, or I think that this is the line of thinking, or maybe it's not, but this is just my interpretation so far, that freeing up the points of the Hive Tyrant gives you more points to bring in a snake or some other bullshit to create the tunnel. And the tunnels are more so the detachment than the stratagems, right? So as long as you can figure out if you want 1 command point to move something, 1 command point to do sustained, ignores cover, I guess you can completely ignore giving the Moloch Trigon Synapse. I was telling you could do that anyway. You don't always need to go for the charges, so there's that too. And then, when it happens. Replenishing Swarms looks like it can go by the wayside and retreat below. Yes, that's nice. Regular squad of Raveners has uppy downy still, so, or I guess I should say downy uppy. So you can kind of rely on them to get some stuff going instead of needing to spend that command point all the time. Depending on how many tunnels you really need to be aware of. So while to me, looks pretty command point intensive, and I guess that's because I would want to do all of the things because, well, if you're not, this is the other thing. It is a very aggressive, you have to be playing detachment because the second that you kind of fall back or get pinned or trapped, you have nothing. So you have to be on the constant go. That's where I would go for this command point situation. But if you can just make it another Trigon, and both of them have enhancements to do things, yeah, I guess you'll be, obviously, we can see you can do pretty well. And it should be noted about this second place, if I remember correctly. Could pull it up right now, but didn't think that far. It was a tie. It was first and second, ended up tying the final game, so that's pretty funny. But yeah, Subterranean Assault, maybe it's only command point hungry if you try to do all the things. Who knows if you need to do all the things as of yet. Then there was another result that I did see that I want to talk about. I'm sorry I don't know the event per se, Battle Forge 4. We're going to go with that before I make a fool of myself. But I did look up this one ahead of time. Joachim, um, please let me know if I butchered that as well. But we also have a Subterranean Assault X and 1 that I want to talk about here. Hive Tyrant, Swarm Lord, Trigon with Trigon Prime, Biovore, Double Exocrine, Lictor, Maliceptor, full block of Neurogants, Norn Emissary, single Pyrovore, 2 Raveners, and a Tyrannofex. This is the list. This is the style of list that I would imagine you would need to do. Um, Going back to the command point hungry situation, we went from a list that had no tyrants whatsoever um, to a list that has double tyrant, swarm lord, and hive tyrant. And personally, this is just what I would be thinking so far. Swarm lord, yes, everybody loves putting out the Vect, or sorry, the Lord of Deceit, malign presence, whatever. For +1 to stratagem cost, a little bit further. I know everybody's loving that situation and get a command point. Let's go. I'm a fan of not using a command point and getting lethal hits with rerolls. So that's pretty good on the Hive Tyrant end. So you combine the two, and it looks like your shoes are looking cool. Then you have Trigon with Trigon Prime. I think that's just auto. It has to be in there. Hitting on 2, Strength 11, AP 2, Damage 3 seems to be the way. Then coming down, as you can see, Exocrine still make the list. That's a bit of a surprise to me, a little bit. Yes and no. I figured that we would see more Maliceptors before we see Exocrines come back, or even Molochs before Exocrines, or something like that. I just didn't think that Exocrines would still be. I know I said that it's probably a shooting detachment, and I still stand by that. I just didn't think that the Exocrine would still be here, if I'm being honest. That's not a comment on this person's list at all. That's just I didn't. Maybe I hoped. Maybe I hoped that the Exocrine would go away. Maybe that was me. But I don't know. I just interesting. I know that it's still our only good gun from range, and I guess you have to do something before you while you're trying to set up all your shenaniganizing. But I figured Maliceptor would be here in spades. Norn Emissary though, do like that. You all know I like putting a Norn over to a spot. So being able to just get your Norn onto its dedicated objective, pretty decent. A single Pyrovore, possibly punch filler, possibly it removes some more cover for all the shooting that you're doing. Put it through something fine. Raveners, they have downy uppy, so they can create holes by the damn selves without needing to go up and down and all the things, so I think that's cool. And a single Tyrannofex with a Rupture Cannon. I am a bit surprised. Oh, and it's to this point that I want to think I know I've complained a lot about Knights, Forge Fiends, and there's one that I forgot to really complain about during all of this because I just knew, I'm like, well, duh, but that's not like new. They've been doing this. It regards this guy down here, Death Guard. So with the win rate of Subterranean Assault falling, it also comes to say why I also am not a fan of skewing for the melee of possibly can I make 6-inch charges. One, I still want to remind you, you can and will fail 6-inch charges, rerollable too. It will be embarrassing. It will hurt you. So use the gun that you can get an angle. But past that, once you are within 6 inches, now starting for battle round 2, right? Of Death Guard. Now you could be within 3, like if you do a turn 1 charge. Either way, uh, if you get into combat with Death Guard as Tyranids, you don't want to be in combat with Death Guard as Tyranids. You're getting your toughness reduced, and you are possibly getting saves lowered, and you can't afford to do that as a Tyranid player. So, between Death Guard making it hard for you to get in melee, uh, us not having the guns to take down Knights efficiently, and Forge Fiends also kind of having our number with our 3 wound infantry, looking at Raveners, looking at Zoes. It is looking like Subterranean Assault might get tougher at that level. And speaking of that level, this is my other gripe. Usually I won't. I think you all might know what I'm going to say, but just for the sake of things, I won't outright be too much of an ass. But until I see familiar pro player names uh, bringing this out into tournaments, I'm not sold on buying into the initial public panic perception of, oh, they can put a Maliceptor over here. Oh my gosh, a Tyrannofex can go over there. I'm not sold on buying into the hype that deep until I start seeing some of those names get onto it and then start doing things that people thought was going to happen. Oh my gosh, you're going to put a Norn in my face and I'ma die. Like, people freak the fuck out about Subterranean Assault, and that's kind of where I was just like, hey guys, we're still Tyranids. This is cool. I like it, but we're still Tyranids. And there are some cool things you could do, but we're still Tyranids. 10th edition Tyranids, right? Not ninth, not 8th, not ninth is the main one. So, there's some things missing before you just go, oh my gosh, there's a Swarm Lord in my face. What am I gonna do? So that's my thing. Before anybody gets too lost in the tunnels, I want to see some familiar names busted out to really go. Yeah, no, guys, don't worry. It is just busted as everybody was talking about. So there's that. And just on the final thing, I wanted to note that hyper adapted Raveners, as you see in the two of the best performing lists I was able to find, um, didn't really have hyper adapt. Didn't, not really. They just didn't have hyper adapted Raveners, which is funny because I agree. I do think that hyper adapted Raveners, even though they're a burrower, just don't play well with the detachment as much, especially for their points. I think 165 for hyper adapted Raveners when I have more useful Trigons. Now, you ask me, Trigon should have been in list before this. I understand that the 6-inch deep strike rule is stupid, / not an ability, really. I agree, but just for hey, my monster is going to always be able to deep strike. Not always, but your opponent has to keep in mind, I have to screen, or else there's going to be a monster in my deployment zone. So that makes them play differently. And to that point, that's kind of where I've seen a lot of the Tyranid Subterranean Assault win so far, is when your opponent goes, I don't know what it does, so I'm going to stay over here. And it goes, all right, well, I'm going to bring my Zoes here. I'm going to bring my Maliceptor here. And then Pew, it's like, no, I'm losing to the bugs. It's OP. And it's like, brother, leave your deployment zone. I don't know. So yeah, that's a whole lot of yapping. I've had a lot of interesting feelings about Subterranean Assault because I think it's okay. I do like it. And this isn't the same extent to where I was just like, hey guys, Vanguard Onslaught look like just okay. I think that Subterranean Assault can be pretty damn good. It just isn't a good time for us right now. And hyper adapted Raveners, I don't think, while they're solving issues in other detachments, funny enough, I don't think that they can solve this one as much. Not too many things that it really needs to benefit from. I think this is one of those. It's our transport detachment, if I'm being honest. I think I said this before, but when you bring a transport detachment, right? You look at Gore Trek Onslaught, Sky Splinter Assault, fucking what was the one? Not Siege Regiment, Recon, whatever the fucking one for Guard is. On top of Bridgehead Strike, I guess to an extent, but shit like that. You're not like, oh my gosh, my transport is amazing. You're like, oh my goodness, the shit I'm bringing out of the transport is amazing. So that's why, as hyper adapted Raveners themselves, pretty good data sheet. I don't think I need the 165 on that. Trigons, I like them. They just so happen to be a delivery method that can also possibly punch something, but are cheap enough that I go, all right, that happened. That was a monster with a 3-up save and no invuln. I understand. But yeah, Subterranean Assault, it probably will continue to fall for the foreseeable future. Unless there's some emergency points that hit some things, especially, what was it? Blood Angels are on the rise or some shit like that. Uh, yeah. The melee armies, fast armies, hurt. They hurt us usually anyway. That's going to hurt then this even more. Death Guard, like I said, all the things I've been yapping about these past couple of weeks are going to continue to hurt us. But usually I try to be some optimism, like no, we'll get there. At least a sprinkle of it, not terribly, but I don't know. It's looking like a rough couple of months, especially with like less command points and other things. So we'll see. I think Subterranean Assault is quirky enough that it might catch some people off guard and win some more tournaments when people aren't expecting it. But yeah, that's current thoughts of Subterranean Assault 1 month in. So if you like the video, like it. Got a comment from me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.